your true self means, sounds like, and looks like. I'm your host, Carlin E. Tapia, coach, speaker, educator, and certified practitioner. I'll put more info of my work and what I do in the show notes. Feel free to contact us. My team would love to schedule a guest on my podcast. I have exciting plans for this, and I am ready to serve you. This podcast is designed to help you break free from fear or toxic stress and grow into the most confident, empowered version of yourself. If you're feeling stuck, uncertain, or overwhelmed, you've come to the right place. Hi, Diane. Thank you so much for being a special guest on my podcast. I just want to welcome you on to here, and I just want to get to know you a little bit. And you can start with, where are you located and who are you?
Okay. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Diane, and most people call me Diane or Diana. Some people call me Dee, whatever you remember. And, I am located in Texas. I have been here for the last 3 years. It's actually a mission trip that God sent me on. And like I said, during that time, I've learned a lot. I've built my business. I've really just, been able to take this really hard walk that I didn't even know that I needed, this really hard journey. And so I have 3 children, one in college and 2 teenage girls, and a little fur baby. And so, life is one day at a time. So.
Yeah, wow. That's impressive. I would love to know more about your business and how the Lord revealed that to you, because, sometimes we have this connotation that God wants us to be poor or something. I really heard that once from a Christian group once, that you're supposed to be comfortably poor. So let's not do that. And let's bring some truth to people. And yeah, if you want to share how did that all come about?
So I'm originally from California, and I was married for 7 years. I actually left my ex-husband because of domestic violence. Also went through some domestic violence my senior year with my son's father. And during that time, I sat and I prayed and I asked God, because the church teaches you that divorce is not an option. But if you read your word, God does not want us to be treated that way. And so I prayed, and when he gave me okay, now you've learned, it's time to go, I left. And so with small children, on a bus for 3 days from Virginia to California, I had I call it an aha moment, because I had just bought the kids these shoes, and we were all going to have like matching shoes, but my shoes weren't going to get there till Wednesday, and it was a Sunday. And I said, okay, I'm just going to go on Wednesday. I already had my stuff situated. I had my whole plan. I was sending documents from Virginia back to my mom during work time. And it was a lot. I didn't tell anybody that I was leaving. I just kind of did it. But with that, you always have to have a plan. And so that was my plan, just little by little. And so one day I'm getting ready to go, and because of my shoes, and I was like, I'll just go on Wednesday. And the Holy Spirit said, if you don't leave now, you're not leaving. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if it was, I'm in danger or you're going to change your mind, but I wasn't trying to find out. And so I, I cleaned the car out. I drove 45 minutes and I sat at the bus station looking at the door, just knowing he knew where I was. And so we get on the bus 8 hours later, and 8 hours later, 10 minutes later of me being on that bus, just freshly on the bus, he calls and he was like, I want to work it out. See, God already knew. And he knows that I wanted to keep my family together. But as a woman of faith, we have to understand that God gives us wisdom. And so, going to California, restarting my whole life, raising my children, 7 years later, July of 2021, God was like, guess what? You're moving to Texas. And literally like within a span of 2 weeks. And I'm like, all right, Lord, so went into prayer, went into fasting, and really just got his instructions because I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. He told me what to do with my car and just little instructions. And it was kind of like, okay, I don't have anybody to answer to. I wasn't married. I didn't have anybody to check in with. So I was like, whatever God tells me to do, I have to do it. So while moving here, he literally woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and started giving me all of the business ideas, the name of the business, everything, how it was supposed to construct it, how I was supposed to do all of this. And I was like, it's a lot. But at the same time, when God gives you those downloads, you have to pay attention because you don't know how important they are. And
Yeah.
so
I just first I want to like say I am so sorry for what you've been through, and when not to like go all the way in that, because I know it's just something that sometimes we don't want to talk about. But when your ex-husband, right? Is ex-husband said that he wanted to work it out, were you just did you just deny that, or what happened there?
I was already on the bus going to California, and I was like, I was done because I had talked to him, and I had said, we need to do counseling. I had left one time prior, but I
Okay.
wasn't good enough to leave. And I just had 2 children then, and it was like, he made all these promises, and one thing that we have to understand when it comes to domestic violence, we know the signs. After a while, we know the patterns. We know what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And I think when we really, it's not that I think, I know that when we're really invested in something, us as women, we're invested, but once we're done, we leave mentally before we leave physically. And it was just one of those things that it was time for a new chapter. It was time to show my kids that this is not the type of behavior. This is not a healthy relationship. This is not a healthy marriage. Marriage is between one man and one woman under God. But at the same time, one thing that I've learned, and I had to take it. I had to take that ouch moment from God. And it's like, you didn't consult me about this marriage. So you didn't ask me if this was your husband that I had for you. You just kind of were doing your own thing. And as humans, we do that. We do that.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, I admire you, and I'm so proud of you because you did it. I mean, like, life is about learning. It's a journey, and it sucks that you had to go through all of that. But I'm glad that now you can tell your story, that you can, encourage people that, one, you're a minority, two, you're really pretty, three, you have, overcome a lot, and then now you have a business and you have a spiritual life. You are cultivating that with God. So I'm just really thankful that you are here and as a guest. And okay, so that's a good point, that we don't ask God. Actually, that's where I'm at right now in life. Just looking for someone, but not really like chasing after a man because I want to be pursued.
Absolutely.
And what do you do differently now? Do you like take your time with God more seriously now before you do things, or what does that look like now?
That is one of the things that I have learned to do different is on this journey, he has taught me to depend on him and only him. And there's been so many times where I'm like, we'll go back to your comment about Christians being poor. I don't believe that God wants us to be poor, but we also have to remember that he is our source. And so if he's given us the business ideas, sometimes they don't take off the way that we want them to take off, or we have to learn some things before things really and there's this period where I'm going through this preparation period, and I'm like, God, I don't understand this. I'm not understanding this. This is hard. But at the same time, I'm like, you gave me the business idea, and the way that my business is getting ready to take off, I know that it's nothing but God. And so, yes, I definitely do stuff differently. I consult him about everything. And one of the things that he taught me, especially being a single woman, is to, before you even get the number or you give the number, make sure that you consult me, because we don't do that. And then we end up on these dates and we end up in these relationships. And it's like, how did I get here? And God was like, I can stop you from a whole lot of heartache if you would just consult me and keep me in your plans. Even the Bible talks about that. He says, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And so many times we get so excited because, of course, we don't want to be single forever. Like, there are people that are content with being single, but I'm like, Lord, that ain't me. I want a relationship. I want a husband. I want to do it your way. And so, just in your case, as you said, and by the way, you are very beautiful yourself. And I know that you have men that want to pursue you, but it's also knowing, like, Lord, is this the right man to pursue me? Because sometimes there are times that God was like, yeah, you can go on the date. And I'm like, oh, yes. You get all excited. And God was like, but that's it. And then I'm like, what? And he was like, I just needed you to speak something. I needed you to learn something. And I'm like, man, really, Lord? But he will put you in those moments because you're learning about yourself and you're learning what you'll tolerate and what you won't tolerate. And I think when we set those boundaries with these men, they understand, hey, this is what's happening. This is not what's happening. And either you can take it or you can leave it. And, we don't have to be rude about it, but sometimes we do have to be stern, like, listen, my boundaries are there to protect me because I don't know you. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. It's definitely something that I've grown in so much. And I love sharing that with women because, especially if you didn't have a father figure that kind of modeled that for you, like, the pursuing the boundaries, the even being respectful of asking you your opinion. And just in my culture is very like, I think in English is machismo, but in Spanish we say machismo. And so I had to relearn a lot of things. And I just want to like tell my audience, like, yeah, like we're worthy of being waited for, of speaking up. And if that person is not emotionally intelligent, is not willing to meet you where you're at with your boundaries, then I strongly just recommend or strongly urge you to really avoid that heartache, because I've been through a relationship. I think it was, yeah, July I broke up with him. It was my first boyfriend, and I didn't listen to myself and I didn't listen to God. Um, it was basically, I was just excited that I had a first boyfriend, that he was cute, and he is a great person, a great guy, but we weren't compatible in our faith and in our long-term dreams. And so I don't, I asked myself, like, why did you stay? And basically, it comes down to like, I just didn't want to, I wanted to fight for that relationship. And I think us women are really good at that. We're like, let's fight for the relationship. Um, but I'm learning to be okay with myself. Like,
Mhm.
if the person comes along, this person will be a partner, and not someone that I'm helping, or pulling up. I don't need to be a mom to someone or
Yeah.
show them about God or teach them about God. And so it's been a huge game changer to really be like, okay, I had to go through that, just being in emotional pain, and I learned my lesson, and I never want to forget that lesson. And so now, as someone that is currently open to business, to clients, to being a coach to people, I really put myself in networking events where I can meet other Christian practitioners and Christian men, so that I'm looking in the right place and not putting myself like on these dating apps that frankly it hasn't worked out for me.
Yeah, dating apps are kind of, it takes a special person to, and I think we all in there, but also I want to commend you for being able to talk about that, because not everybody has that, they're not there yet. And I went through that stage where I wasn't there yet, especially when I'm like, I don't know, but now it's different. And you start to realize it's like, like you said, you realize that you're not compatible. But some people get in marriages and realize that there's no love, there's no compatibility. And then they do have to pull their partner along. And it's like, we don't even mesh. Like, we're not even good for each other. Like, I don't even know how I saw that. But that's how the enemy tries to get us. He tries to get us to do our own thing. He tries to make us, for us to make our own plans. And it talks about that in the Bible, how man makes their own plans. I was like, he orders the steps. And so when he orders our steps, it's so much better, because going through the whole situations of me, being in this marriage and not being able to be myself, and then looking back and like, wow. But one thing we have to remember is that as conniving as the enemy is, and he tries to make us think that we're not good enough, is when he sends these people, because we're the women, we are to be pursued. He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. It doesn't say she that goes and finds a boyfriend, that the boyfriend wants to, this. And we put ourselves in these situations, and it's like, and that's why I said sometimes I'm like, ouch, like, okay, Lord, I'll take that, because, accountability is big with God. We have to own it. You know what? I made a mistake. I didn't consult you. I'm sorry. Show me what to do. And it doesn't mean that we can't go out and have fun, and meet people. And, some people like to talk on the phone. And as long as you establish those boundaries and the person is okay with it. But once you establish those boundaries, really watching to see, are they respecting your boundaries? Are they able to say, you know what, you said this bothers you, but okay, I won't do it, but they continue to do it. So,
Yeah, that's so true. I used to not have boundaries, like, what, 6 years ago. And I used to not know how to respect boundaries. And I can't believe that that was me. But yeah, my old self couldn't, no one taught me that, growing up. And especially, I think there's a lot to do with, like, if you're in survival mode, it's also hard to respect boundaries because you are trying to survive. You want something. You're doing whatever it takes to be able to just live. And so I I'm like, wow, that makes a difference in my life. I'm not surviving anymore, so I don't have to cling to people. Like, I used to have this fear, and I like to be so vulnerable and transparent with my audience because I want them to know that, I'm not, I wasn't always like this, like a coach that can talk about boundaries and, just coach people to have boundaries without me going on my own healing journey. And I don't cling to people because I know that there's enough people in the world to be my friend, or that I trust that God will meet my needs. But I didn't have that. And it's so important that we even teach that to our children, from like when they're teenagers, that they're going to go into adulthood, and it looks a little bit different when you need a safe place. You're not going to people all the time, like you can, but the first source is God, right? Then we create codependency and then other stuff. So it's just, I see that, and then I see people that don't have God as their love source, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what a mess. That's so painful and hurtful,
mm,
with relationships out there. Just, I don't know who they lean on. Like, they lean on what, So I just wanted to share that.
absolutely. Transparency is key. And, when I talk to people, I'm very transparent about what I've been through, and also survival mode, like trying to get out of survival mode, because what the world teaches us is survival mode. Go to work and work this job until, making X amount of money. You're not going to go anywhere. And I'm not saying that entrepreneurship is for everybody, but it teaches you these things. And so when God took me out of the workload and has not allowed me to work a job and build this business, it is survival mode. And it's like, God, like, I don't understand. He's like, you have to unlearn some things, because we have to remember that if God is our source and he's going to provide for us, he says he's Jehovah Jireh, he's our provider. We have to take him at that. And that's when our faith is built. And on this journey, my faith has been built so much. And I'm like, Lord, this doesn't even make sense. Like, you brought me to Texas so I could like struggle. Like, I don't understand that. And he's just like, you need to trust me. And so my faith is being built along the way. My faith is knowing that he is my source. My faith is knowing that it's okay. But another thing that I had to unlearn was pride. Knowing when to ask for help, knowing when to say, I don't have it all together, knowing when to say, you know what, this is too much. I can't, even in the business world, knowing who we can work with and who we can't, because everybody is not for us. We're not going to be able to reach everybody. And it's just to the point where it's like, okay, even with clients, there's times that I work with clients and God was like, you're going to work with them, but they're not going to pay you. And I'm like, okay, Lord. And it wasn't that I didn't, because I love people, but it's like, what are we doing here? But our business usually correlates with our ministry.
Oh, yes.
It's not about the money. It's not about how much money you can make with things. It's about the reach that you're able to reach people. It's about knowing that, hey, you know what? Okay, if you say that they can't pay me and I need to work with them, this is your assignment that you have me on. Okay, what do we need to do? And I've seen some of the people that I've worked with that are in better spaces, because in order to reach someone, we have to heal. And that's where testimony is built. We go through these things for other people, but also, what am I learning in this space? What am I learning? And, even with your story, you know, your story may not be my story, but it's going to reach somebody. But as women, and my mom is Hispanic, so coming from a Hispanic culture, it's different. There was things that I didn't know that I wasn't taught, and it wasn't that my mom was doing a bad job. It's the fact that when I was 4, my mom died, and then her sister took me in. And so with that responsibility, but I can tell you what, she taught me about God. She loves me unconditionally. And, she didn't have to take on something that, other people would have been like, you know what, just let her go to foster care. But it's to the point where I can have conversations with my mom and I'm like, I learned this about God and God taught me this. And we can have that conversation, and we can, if I need something or I want to talk, I know my mom is there. And I know she's just been, but our parents, when it comes to our healing, we have to forgive them. Because when we forgive them, our healing, it flows. It's so much something about forgiveness that God really teaches us. And it's like, oh, I needed that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. For me, I had to blame my parents first to feel that anger, that injustice, because I just have a wild story, but for another time. But yeah, just not being protected. And so then once I got all of that in my system out, just blaming them like righteously, then I was able to go into acceptance and then to forgive. That was kind of how it happened for me. And that's it. That's a wrap, you guys. Thank you so much for being here today and for giving me the privilege to speak over your life and for you receiving the gift of growth. Remember, every step you take forward, no matter how small or big, you are truly moving forward to who you're truly meant to be. Embrace the journey, because the process of becoming is just as powerful as the destination. And in today's episode, if something sparked in you, a question, anything, a goal, an idea, hold on to that. Let it be the nudge you need to take brave steps forward toward the life that's calling you. You don't have to have it all figured out to start. You just need to take that next step. And I'll be here cheering you on every step of the way. Until next time, keep going. Hey, and do me a favor, share this episode with one friend or on social media. Let's bring more awareness to taking brave steps forward together.